The other one would have been the same. The dance after World Clash 2001, where we won, where there was a controversy to say that his Bounty Killer give us the dance and all them something there.
Yes.
Yeah. So there was a rematch, a face-off between we and Mighty Crown. I think Brooklyn, it was February 2002.
Yes. In Brooklyn at the
Brooklyn Warehouse. Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. That dance now was a very the two sounds went hard in the first round. Let me say went hard, well, very hard. I mean, if Mighty Crown played 100 songs for them round, 90 of them was personalized. You know what I mean? So say, people love the personality. We couldn't keep up with them things because them doesn't make sense to we. We cut 1 and 2 personal. We know they on the whole bag of personal all the way.
Yeah.
So, but we still hold our own, and I mean the first round was neck and neck. Second round, Mighty Crown go hard again. And we started off bad. And it's like the momentum was not there. And I said to Squinty, say, hey, oh God, just call it so we lose a round. But now waste the dubs in that round. Because you see, once you start bad, even if you're going to play your biggest dub in your box, it good all don't get no forward. You know, you have to just call around the dead, plan for the next round. So we just play the first round, the second round easy. You know, we never get no whole heap of forward, but we never get no bore. No, it's like everybody's wondering, what's going on with BSRDC? I can't BSRDC. So anyway, so Mighty Crown coming back in the third round now and say, yeah, she said them are idiot, and start do them thing. And we make them do them thing, and when we come back in, that's when we played. We started, I will never forget this, man, because I wrote this intro for this dance, where it was the Nelly Furtado song, I got Mitch from ARP to do. Yes. Where him say, after midnight, morning comes, can't believe a Mighty Crown we see, we gotta tell the nation, we can't believe a Sammy team a suck, when they turn on the lights. And trust me, that turned over the dance, and that's when we did drop the Berry Salmon. Many sound they try to test bass or this sound, and trust me, that was what basically turned around that round. Because even though let me tell everybody, Jara was the first sound to play the Far East, Berry Salmon on the Far East. But it's just that. And I'm talking all the while, but it's just that particular night, when we played it against Mighty Crown, that's when the world recognized that song. That's when Berry started getting requests for that dub plate from almost every single sound in the business. Yeah, I mean, and trust me, when we played that song, it rooted the place in such a way, that we just control the round. It coming like the people and forget what Mighty Crown did play from for them round and everything. So it's like there was no doubt who won that round. You know what I mean? And then now, when it reached tune for tune, Mighty Crown, one of the things that I think kind of messed up Mighty Crown is that they were continually talking about losing the World Clash and say, thief the World Clash, thief the World Clash. Almost every song was talking about, so we thief World Clash. And it was getting to the people now. Like, I must say, all right, come off of that now, man. Give that a break now. You know what I mean? And remember when we started Tune for Tune, the very first song they played in Tune for Tune was a Tuna Gang. I say, if I remember correctly, like it said, Mighty Crown win World Clash 99, 2001, then Robbery Blind. And it's like it gone right back to that again. And like they got the boo that they got was normal. It was not normal boo them get. Yeah, man, so as I was saying, we basically, we were dominating in the Tune for Tune. We were leading like every song. You know what I mean? And it reached a stage where it's like we were just gonna put the nail in the coffin now, the final nail in the coffin, and that's when we played the tune of Mervyn. Mighty Crown, don't put that where you can reach it. And trust me, the forward was so big that when Mighty Crown, when Simon got the mic back in his hand, the people were still giving us a forward, and he must say, "Yeah, man, that song they big. Me feel it, me feel it." And after that, they practically gave up. They locked off. They said, all right, people, this is tonight and my night, so I'm going to play my final song. And they locked off. You know what I mean? And the funny thing about that song, about the Junior Murvin, I can remember when I thought, it's like the idea popped in my head and I said, I want that song on dub. Because we didn't even have it on dub regular. So I say, yo, we need it. And the artist lived in Portland.
Okay.
Right? And we were in Kingston. That was like, I think I finally got a link to him about 10 o'clock at night. About 10 o'clock at night, I got a link to him. And I was in Kingston and I said, sing if you're not going to bed early, I come link now, And I left from Kingston and drove to Portland. I think we reached Portland something like minutes to 1 in the morning. Because, them time the road wasn't no highway or nothing to do with some real bad roads, And we reached them and we voiced the song, man, and it really was worth going. All right, Portland is so far from Senton where we live that when I left Portland almost 2 o'clock or minutes to 2, I didn't reach home till nearly 5:30, going to 6. Wow. That's how far Portland was from where we live. You know what I mean? But as I said, it was worth it.
For that one
song, but it was a wrecking song.
Big one. This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinesmusica.com.